Okay, boys and girls, today we're going to take a look at loops. Now, in this program right here, we're going to put two numbers here, the number and the power we want to raise it to. And when you hit calculate, it'll give us the answer right here. Let's go ahead and look at the code. We have three integers declared, and of course our text box receives strings. We parse them back to integers and assign them to the appropriate integer we want it to go to. Here we have a for loop, which is the main topic of our video today. The for loop is a lot different from the other loops in that it declares a variable in the first part. It has the condition statement in the middle, and it increments the variable at the end. Now, the variable that's declared for the for loop will be only available to this for loop. Once the for loop is ended, the I variable will go away. And this is great because you won't have random variables just stacked up in the code and taking up memory and space. In this case, the I variable will go away, and we could use several for loops so that we don't take up much memory with the I, since it's only being used to run this for loop. Now, this for loop starts, the condition of the for loop is that it will start at 1, and as long as 1 is less than the power, it will continue using the code in the loop. Once this condition is turned false, this for loop will be over. The body of the code begins right here with the bracket open, and the bracket closed is the end of the body. So as long as this condition I less than pow is true, it'll perform the body of code that's within the brackets. Very interesting enough. I noticed that I started the I at 1 because of the mathematical equations of trying to raise to the next power. So if we step through it, for example, if we put 5 here and 2, I will have 1. It tests the condition. Is 1 less than 2, which is the variable that got passed to pow? It is. So let's perform this statement here, in which 5 times 5, because 5 was passed into num and answer got num, which equals 5 times 5 is 25, which gets assigned to answer. The I variable, now that we ended the loop here, or at least the body, I'm sorry, of the code, the I variable gets increased by 1. That's what the I++ means. I++ means incrementing the value by 1. So, when the value of I gets increased, it moves from 1 to 2. The condition now says 2 less than 2. This now turns to false, and the for loop is broken, and it goes to the next line of code, which is assigning to our label answer.toString, which would be 25, converting it back to a string and assigning it to the text box. Alright, so let's take a look to see if that actually worked. 5, 2, and 25. There you go. So it actually works. Now, for loops are not the only way you could have done this. You also could have done a while loop. And a while loop just has the condition in it But in this case, we would have had to declare the variable I, and we would have had to increase I within the loop. Now in the while loop, the condition gets tested first. Make sure I is less than pow, which is true. Performs the body of code. We increase the variable, and once the loop body is finished, it goes back up to top and tests the condition again. Now we knew that once this ran the first time and the first time only, when I increased that this was 2 and it's not less than 2, so the value is to false, this while loop breaks. Alright, so now, just like the for loop, the I now comes up to the top, and this is now available for the entire code and takes up memory space. The condition is right here, and to increase your variable would be down here. Okay, see if that works. 5, 2, calculate, 25. Okay, good, 2 for 2. Looking good so far. Now, let's take a look at something else called a do while. Now, do whiles are different from regular whiles because do whiles guarantee that the code actually gets performed at least once. Reason being that the test case is actually down here, and it doesn't actually get called until the do part actually performs. So in our case, we were lucky that once this was performed the first time, we increase the variable, then it tests the case. And in this case, it works out well because we at least had one iteration where it'd be okay before it would have to be broken. But you have to remember that in a do while, the condition doesn't get tested in the beginning. It performs the do first and then tests the condition. So this loop will actually at least perform one time. That's very important. It'll perform at least once. Now after that, it'll test the condition and make sure it meets the criteria to move on. But the variable, if it was actually 2, will actually still do the loop. So very important that you know that when you're using a do while, that it will always perform the body of the do at least once before testing the condition. Okay, well that ends our video on loops, and I will see you in the next video.